U.S. Border Patrol agents and the Office of Field Operations officers are, at the end of the day, the most important border security resource we have. All of the technology and infrastructure deployed along the southern border and northern border is useless if we do not have a well-trained agent or CBP officer present between the ports of entry or at the port of entry to make an arrest, interdict a drug load, screen cargo from a country of concern, or speed legitimate transit through the port of entry. However, CBP is critically understaffed and well below its congressionally mandated staffing levels by more than 1,000 officers and 1,800 Border Patrol agents. We are simply losing ground every single month. There is no end in sight as we continue to lose agents and officers through attrition without the ability to quickly hire new ones. The lack of retention among officers should be a major concern for CBP. We have experienced officers and agents leaving the force in significant numbers, and the hiring process fails to bridge the gap. At the current hiring rate, approximately 150 to 200 applicants go through the process in order to hire one agent or officer. This means CBP needs to have hundreds of thousands of people apply just to meet their current needs. Filling staffing shortages is a challenge for several reasons. For starters, last year it took more than 383 days. No one can wait that long for a job, by the way. 383 days and 11 distinct steps on average to onboard a new officer or agent. And even with the newer expedited system called a hiring hub, where CBP condenses all the steps into several days, that takes 159 days. That is simply still too much time, and we are losing far too many good applicants because the current process is flawed. In addition, the Anti-Border Corruption Act of 2010 requires that CBP law enforcement applicants undergo a pre-employment polygraph examination as part of this very long and laborious hiring process. This is creating a substantial staffing bottleneck. I want to be clear. We need to make sure that everyone who applies to be a CBP officer, a Border Patrol agent, or Air and Marine interdict officer is thoroughly vetted to ensure they are not at risk for corruption or a cartel operative. But my common sense bipartisan bill expedites the hiring process for certain well-qualified applicants who have already proved themselves trustworthy in the military and in law enforcement, boosting our national security with trained manpower and bringing good jobs to our local economy. This legislation provides 3 very narrowly tailored exemptions to alleviate the immediate shortage of CBP officers and Border Patrol agents. It provides discretion to the Commissioner of CBP to waive the polygraph for current state and local law enforcement officers who have already passed a polygraph examination, federal law enforcement officers who have already passed a stringent background investigation, and veterans with at least 3 consecutive years in the military who have held a clearance and passed a background check. These exemptions are purely discretionary, not mandatory. If there is something in an applicant's history or background that causes CBP concern, then they can still use the polygraph exam to resolve those questions. These small changes will provide CBP with immediate relief so they're able to quickly yet judiciously hire officers and agents from a pool of applicants that already maintain the public's trust and have put their lives on the line for our security and safety on a daily basis. The men and women in these 3 categories will be reviewed on an expedited basis, can be reviewed, while the agency pilots other changes to the way the polygraph examination is administered. I want to thank the ranking member of the subcommittee, Mr. Vela, for co-sponsoring this bill. I'd ask all my colleagues on the committee to join me in supporting this legislation, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlelady yields.